Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode of the Development Project. Today, we have a couple of members from our gym who are going to join us for a conversation, kind of talking about things surrounding the topic of diversity in CrossFit. So I'm going to let Tristan introduce both of them, and we'll kind of let them speak about themselves a little bit before we get ourselves into the conversation. So Tristan, go ahead and tell us who our guests are.
Yeah, this is an exciting day. It's different for us for a lot of reasons. First of all, we're going to actually have a two-part series all in one for a total of 3 guests. But secondly, we've only had one other feature, and this is another time that we're going to be doing that. So they don't need many introductions because I've talked about both of them on this podcast before. Bran, one of my coaches, she's been a huge advocate for us just in the community and as a coach and over quarantine. And then obviously Abel, the one guy who works more on his biceps and his calves. So I've teased him a few times. But yeah, it's really good to have both of you on here. We're excited to just have an open conversation about this. It's not only something that means a lot to all of us because we really are family, but with all the things that we see going around us in the world today, I think that this is just something that has really brought a lot of us closer. And so we're just really excited to talk about those things. We'll just get started. A small introduction. Bran will have you go first, but not like all of your life, but just kind of a life background of Bran.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. My name is Bran Lanning. My real name is Brandy. I've gone by Bran for the past 8 or so years. My athletic background is I played basketball for 17 years. I did all kinds of sports in high school. Went to college, played basketball. Found CrossFit in 2013 while I was deployed for the 3rd time. And just fell in love with it, and here I am now. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Abel. Also, just wanted to say thanks for having me as well. I'm from the East Coast, Philadelphia originally. Moved here about 2005, 2006, and I went to Cecina Memorial High School, and I played football, ran track all 4 years, and then I got introduced to CrossFit around, I want to say, 2016. At Infiltrate downtown on the canal, but then they closed down. So, and then a couple years after that, I found this place, me and my good friends.
I remember us talking about Infiltrate a couple of weeks ago because that was actually the gym that I started to go to when I was downtown for school. And I think I got there for like a week, and then all that stuff happened and like bye-bye, and ended up having to go somewhere else for a while. So I think I remember us having that conversation. Yep. You still have the headband though, don't you?
I do indeed.
That's awesome.
So one of the things that we want to kind of dive into is a little bit more about your backgrounds. Okay, you as people, you as individuals specifically, and we're not here to hide anything. We're here to be very open and honest. Bran, you're a lesbian. Mm-hmm. Abel, you're a black.
Very black.
A black male. And that's exactly why we want to talk to you guys today about this, because CrossFit is something that we all share, and we don't feel at all that who we love or what the color of our skin looks like should separate that at all. In fact, it's almost what makes it even more special that we can all have this common bond with one another. So my question for you guys is just kind of give us the now background of CrossFit. So when you found it, you kind of talked about that, and just you don't need to talk about gyms if you don't feel comfortable, and you don't need to talk about any reasons why necessarily you left other gyms. Just kind of your tour through CrossFit, kind of the feelings that you've been left with, positive and negative, specifically in the areas of your life that are different from other people. So just kind of talk about those things and elaborate a little bit.
I guess my experience would, obviously 2013, the military is already really diverse. It was just a great way to really dive into the sport. I didn't even know anything about CrossFit. And I got a 4-day pass from Afghanistan to Kuwait. Camp Arif, if you've ever been there. They have a pool. So I was like, let's go there. So we got a 4-day pass. One of my buddies said, hey, we're going to have a competition at the gym, their giant gym, and you should come check it out. And I think you'd really like this thing called CrossFit. And I was like, okay. So we went and checked it out, walked in, watched the first workout, and I was like, I want to do this. This looks challenging, like lots of gymnastics and whatnot. went back to my base, jumped in right into the next class. We started in this like little 20-man tent that had like this tiny little pull-up rig, which everyone ripped their hands on because it wasn't real. It was just like this manufactured together that the engineers made. And whenever there was a running watt outside, you hated it because it was always like 100 and some odd degrees every day. And then when I came back, my first gym back in the States was IXF in Greenwood. Great gym. I still have lifelong friends from there. Still talk to them. I've never really had a negative experience toward who I am as a person. I have had many people tell me that they don't agree with my lifestyle, which is fine with them. And I took their opinion. I didn't take it to heart because that's their own opinion. Everyone has their own opinion about whatnot. But it doesn't deter me on how I feel as a person or who I am as a person or a human or anything like that. And then after I got my level 1 with IXF, coached there for about a year, I moved to Fort Bend CrossFit because I got a job as a recruiter for the Indian Army National Guard. So I got a job as a recruiter. I was stationed in Lawrence on 59th Street, and Fort Bend's like 30 seconds down the road. So I went and checked it out. Was about to coach there for, I was an athlete there for a month. Was like, I just want to be an athlete. A month later, they asked me to coach, and I was like, okay, fine. Free membership with coaching with that too. So I was at Fort Bend for a little while. The only negative experience I would say for that situation was just I didn't agree with a lot of direction that I guess you'd say the owners were going in and whatnot. Of course, it's not my business, not my gym, but I'm an advocate for that business and that gym. So when I have members coming up to me saying, hey, why do we do this and not this and blah, 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 and I would bring it to the owners, they took it as a personal attack from me. And I'm like, this is a consensus from multiple members. Like, this is me relaying, advocating for them to you and from you to them and stuff. So I decided to leave because I didn't think it was in my best interest to stay. So, and then Missy, was it Reichert? Yeah. Sorry, Miss. She was like, hey, my friends are opening up a gym over on Brookville Road. You should come check it out. Came to the opening day workout. Loved it. Been there ever since. And I can't think of anywhere else I would rather be.
Speaking of that day, didn't you have to leave early for something weird?
My alarm in my house went off. We had just moved in, and I got a notification on my watch. First time the alarm has ever gone off with me being away from the house. And I was like, oh, my God, somebody's stealing all my stuff. And it was like, my dogs are gone. They're out running around. Like, I got to go home.
I remember talking to you when you first walked in, introduced myself. You introduced yourself to me. We did the heats because it was a big day. I mean,
it was
40,
huge.
60 people. I can't remember. But we had multiple heats. And you went, and I mean, I was trying to do a good job of talking to everyone, but especially since you had a background in CrossFit, I was more interested to talk to you. And I looked for you, and I couldn't find you. And I was just like, well, I guess that went really well. Like, she'll probably not be back.
Oh, lies. I came back. It was great.
Cool. Abel, let us know a little bit about you.
Yeah, so, really the way I found CrossFit was my freshman year of college. After my freshman year of college, some financial aid things just didn't go in my favor. Like, I did really well at school. I always was a pretty decent student. So after my freshman year, I couldn't go back for, like I said, financial aid reasons. And once I got home, I had so much time on my hand after work, and I was just like, man, I really need to fill this time. So I just go to a traditional gym and doing a little too many bicep curls or whatever. So, but at some point it gets boring, just the squat, deadlift, curl, just like the typical stereotypical gym things. So after that, I went home and found a documentary on Netflix. I know it sounds ridiculous, but I think it was The Fittest or something like that. And I just was like, the things these people can do it just doesn't make any sense. It's unfathomable. How could someone be physically capable of doing such a thing. And I was like, this is what I want to do. So I immediately started looking up CrossFit gyms. So I was like, found one, Infiltrate downtown, and then I was there for a little bit and closed down. And a couple years after that, my good friends at the gym, they won't tell you, but I'm the one who originally put them on CrossFit from the jump. And then that's when we started looking around for more gyms, and we found one that was really close and with good people at it, and that's home now. So
all those people out there who say that we need to de-emphasize the games because it doesn't motivate people to get into CrossFit.
That is why I'm here. I know I'm not going to make it to the games, but it was, I loved seeing it.
Yeah,
it was awesome.
That's exactly the same thing for me. I remember watching, I think it was the 2015 documentary on Netflix. I think it was The Fittest on Earth at that point. And I thought it was so cool. And I was like, man, I want to be like those people. So I totally relate to that. I think that's awesome. So now we know you guys are very established members of our gym. So maybe let the listeners know what your experience has been within the gym, just as a person in general. What has it been like, you know, to interact with the people that are there? Is it different from any other experiences that you've had in the past? Just sort of fill us in a little bit on what that's like.
For me, the experience it's only ever been positive. I've not really ever had a negative experience at M4G. I try to be very inclusive and accepting of everyone else, and I feel like everyone else sees that. And no matter who you are, I'm always like, hey, what's going on? You know, Matt Grill's one of my favorite people. I don't get to see him very often because he goes at the butt crack of dawn, so I'm not even awake by then. But like Sydney, I don't ever get to see him either. And so when I do see them, I'm like, hey, like, what's going on with your life? I keep up with you on social media, you know, stuff like that. I feel like again, it's just only ever been positive reinforcement and whatnot at our gym. I think we have a very diverse gym, and we're very accepting people regardless of who comes and goes and whatnot.
Now, do you feel, I'm going to trail off a little bit before we get to your answer, Abel. Do you feel like that experience locally is something that you think is very contiguous for the nationwide sort of like CrossFit experience? Or do you think there's maybe some gyms out there in certain parts of the nation that may or may not be as inclusive as your experience so far?
So from my experience of dropping into other gyms while vacationing, I've had, last October I went to Seattle. I dropped into a gym, super inclusive, had pride flag on the wall, had all the military flags on the wall like most CrossFit gyms do. I felt very comfortable there. Well, I was in Seattle for 7 days. I was like, oh, I want to drop into multiple gyms. I found multiple gyms. I would walk to most of them. They were really close. It was only ever one gym that I didn't feel. I felt like super like secluded and judged, and no one talked to me. You know, even when people drop into M4G, I immediately say, in my brain, I'm like, I've never seen your face. I want to make sure that I know who you are and what you expect from us, and to make you feel comfortable in our gym, in our home. Other than that, I mean, I feel like, I would say probably like 95% of CrossFit gyms across the country or the world are very inclusive. The number one goal is fitness and health. And yeah, that's, yeah.
Brandon, you think, I think we're at about 3-year mark now since Infiltrate's, you know, that what went down. And, you know, we're going to talk about Greg Glassman in a different way here in a second. However, he was very pro LGBTQ community. And I'm sure that was something that you were very happy to hear and feel and all those things. Do you feel that for you, CrossFit actually does it better than perhaps other organizations out there when it comes to fitness and health? Do you feel like they actually go above and beyond when it comes to that community?
I do, because I feel like CrossFit goes above and beyond to learn individual people. Like, they want to learn people as a whole, but also individually, because everyone's different, obviously. My body type and how my body works and processes food and reacts to fitness and stuff like that is different than Caden's. I think the general overarching concept of what CrossFit wants to do or has accomplished thus far, I think it does actually hit on, God, what's the word I'm looking for? The greater good for any community and any individual person or group of people that want to come in and be healthier.
Okay. Abel, what about you?
Also, just as Brand said, like, my experiences have been nothing but positive. Like, so positive as to the point where I'm almost, I don't want to say deaf to, like, the things that are going on now, but I'm just like, I can't believe, like, these things are going on, because the people around me at the gym, or even just in my home life, are just so good to me, almost like coddling me, to where, like I said, it's like surprising to hear that these things are happening outside of our gym.
You know, Caden, I don't want to speak for you, even though we have a lot of conversations, and I feel like I can. But obviously, you and I are two white males. What we've tried to do the best job of is, like everyone else, educating, understanding how other people feel. I think that's actually the first thing that you should really understand. It's just, how is someone feeling, history, what have you gone through as an individual yourself? And then from there, you really start branching out. I mean, all across the United States, other countries, your family members, you know, all kinds of things. But just to what you just alluded to, Abel, is what we've tried to understand is why are we not aware? And, you know, it's a good and a bad, but I'm going to talk about the good of it, is that we have chosen to surround ourselves with a community that is diverse and that loves all. And they don't just say those words, they actually show it, which to us, this is why we wanted to do this. Everyone's posting stuff on social media. Good for you. Everyone can take the time to type something if they have enough time. We wanted to take that next step, and we want to keep taking steps. This isn't just our last step. We wanted to really put it out there because we see other games athletes doing it. We do, and what I mean is they have platforms. I'm not saying that we reach thousands and millions of people, not yet. But the point is that we do realize that we have a platform to share things, and that's the reason we wanted to do this. So anyway, just saying that for us, we have tried to always surround ourselves by people who believe in what we believe in and who feel the same way as us. And so for us, yes, we actually have, in a good and bad way, been blind to things around us. Ben Bergeron put it best. He goes, I didn't even know racism still existed because I'm in a community where racism does not exist, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist all around us. And I think that it's our part, and it's not just racism, it's also the LGBTQ community. But for us, if this is how we truly feel inside our community, then what's tough is it is our job to expand our community further, or expand what we've created to the world, or at least other demographics around us.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think CrossFit, one of the first steps that we've seen so far since all that craziness that happened a couple weeks ago, and I think that's probably where we're going to go next, the new scholarship program for people, trying to get more people involved in CrossFit. And so I think a key thing to mention really quickly is that diversity doesn't have to just be your skin color or who you love. It can also be socioeconomic status, how you're able to afford your fitness. Are you able to even get in the gym to get healthy regardless of who you are? So I'm kind of on the same boat. I'm lucky and I'm blessed because I'm a coach, so I can work off my membership. But Abel, you were a student too, so you kind of understand what it's like, especially with being so young and getting your life started, how that can be something that's difficult to get started with. What's that like?
Absolutely. But I feel like it's priorities. And like Tristan always tells me, it's how you view yourself, you know? So if you want to make it happen, you want to make something happen, you'll make it happen no matter what it takes.
Yeah, it's kind of like how I guess when you schedule workouts, you know, people are like, oh, I don't have time to work out. Well, if you prioritize your workout above most of the other things that you do in your life, you sort of work stuff around that. And I guess the same can be said for your finances as too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always special to understand when people that care about you understand how they view you. But that's so cool. I have said that, but I didn't even realize it. And how, when Abel said it, it's like, what's more powerful is how you view yourself. It's always special when someone else views you the same way, but it really is you who, the way that you view yourself, that's what's the most powerful thing. Going back a little bit, so let's just go ahead and dive into that, is just snapshot view. We've discussed it in previous episodes, so we're not going to retract. But just Greg Glassman's comments when it came to the Black Lives Matter, Floyd 19, those kinds of things. What was you guys' first reaction? And it doesn't need to be long. I mean, just what was your first initial gut reaction when you each heard that? Go ahead, Abel.
Initially, my reaction was, who the fuck is Greg Glassman? You know, I had no clue who this guy was. And it was just a shock to me. I was like, I didn't even know CrossFit had a CEO, you know? So I had no clue he was. And
I don't know. I'm a research kind of person. So when I first started CrossFit, all I did was research what it was, how I could get better. Video after video of how the heck do you do a pull-up? How do you do toes to bar? You know, stuff like that. And when you research CrossFit, Greg Glassman comes up quite a bit. And I used to use Benchmark, his Benchmark quote, because all Benchmark workouts are female names. And he said, if anything leaves you flat on your back asking what the F just happened, it deserves a female name. But I will no longer say that. So I will no longer use that quote. The initial reaction was, is this true? Like, is this accurate? Because it's not like I know him. It's not like we hang out or text, you know, or anything like that. And just learning from his background and what he's done and how misogynistic he is towards women, we would have never hung out. Like, I would have told him straight up, been like, you're garbage. You know, I just don't like how you talk to women, regardless of what they look like or, you know, if they're beautiful or all women are beautiful and all humans are beautiful. But yeah, my initial reaction was to research to ensure that all my information was accurate. I did post a video on my own account saying how disgusted I was. And then for more things to come out after that, just fueled my rage of this guy needs to go. This is not the representative that we want in our CrossFit community. So it was very disheartening.
I feel like he's always been that kind of person too, that sort of just like speaks his mind or whatever. And I think people just kind of were just comfortable with it. They were just like, that's just who he is. And they blew it away and they didn't really pay attention. And then I can't remember what news outlet it was.
It was New York Times.
But they released the stuff that he said about women and all that sort of stuff. And I'm reading it and I'm like, what? How did no one, like, that's crazy.
You can be transparent and speak your mind, and you can do it tactfully. Mm-hmm. Being in the military, I am tactfully shitty all the time. So if you don't want to believe what you think I know or how I do my job because based off of my gender or how 5 minutes you've known me, you know, go ahead. But I'd be tactfully shitty back. So
write that down.
Write that down. Yeah. So first point that I'd like to make is something that Brand just said, and this is just wisdom, folks. Like, you should research everything. You know, we all have emotions, and even though Bran researched something, I'm sure she did have a gut instinct emotion, but what we're trying to say is don't act on that. And I think that that's actually how things like this can escalate to where they don't need to escalate to, and how we as a society can turn this thing around if we really want to. But I think too many people just have gut reactions based on their emotions. That's why I'm married. I'm married so I won't go say something stupid. My wife is a blessing to me. I make sure that I give all my emotions to her first. She's my PR board, I guess, you know, whatever. But what I can say about Greg Glass, at least when that tweet came out, being a business owner myself, I have emotions too. I feel certain ways. It doesn't mean that that's exactly how I feel about everything. But if I were to say something right off the cuff, it could definitely come across completely different than how I mean it. So yeah, kind of to Abel's point is just like, I don't even know who this guy is. You know, Brand's like, I'm actually used to these comments. I mean, Brand and I actually, for all of you out there, we started CrossFit a month apart. Mm-hmm. So Brand and I have been doing this almost the exact same amount of time. And to her point, as much as back then that seemed to be a very funny comment, now you know who he really is and was. And it's like, that's not a funny comment anymore at all. Like and now you really understand what he meant by it, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. And so it's just things like that where Brandon and I have been doing this for over 7 years, and we've heard things like this over time to where it is sad, because if you can think of maybe your own family member, you almost give them a pass because you're like, oh, that's my aunt for you. Mm-hmm. That's just how she is, you know? And I almost feel like we as CrossFitters, that's how we've given Greg Glassman a pass for so long. And you'll hear a lot of people who are way more intellectual and who've been doing CrossFit longer than all of us combined, who have said like, this day was coming.
Oh, yeah.
We knew this day was coming. So yeah, I think that's a good piece to stop there. Caden, where would you like to go next?
Well, I had a small piece to finish that real quick. I think what we highlighted there for a second was the fact that like people who've been doing CrossFit for a long time saw it coming. We've been doing Abel's been doing it the least amount of time of all of us. So I'm interested to hear what his perspective is as somebody who's new to CrossFit. Like you even said yourself, you had no idea who Greg Glassman was.
No idea.
So what was it like seeing how everyone else reacted and the changes that were made? Like, was that something that's just like, you're just kind of watching it unfold, or did you find time to even realize that things were different in the past and now CrossFit's almost going through a revolution?
I think that knowing that I'm so new to CrossFit that I was kind of like indifferent about it, because it just really I'm sorry, fellas.
That's okay.
No big deal.
It just didn't hit me as hard as I guess, not really it should have, but I was just so new to CrossFit, and I still am, I guess. And it really didn't register for me, but I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
I think that, and we talked about this off air. So, I mean, a few things. One, Abel is a little bit nervous. He's never done a podcast before. But two, this is why we are very intrigued. And we think that this is very important, because there is not one way to view this. There's not one way to feel. And again, going back to our society, I think that when we can sooner better understand that it's still okay to look at things differently or feel different ways, that's how love can come in and still bind people together. It's when, oh, you don't think how I think? See ya. And that's just never going to grow us as a community, society, people. So yeah, there's not a wrong answer. But what Abel's trying to say is that as a black male, he just felt differently about it. And I think that that's important, because there's other black people who absolutely felt different than Abel. Abel, can you give us a little background on who your family is, who you stay with, and maybe that can also better help people understand why maybe you see this differently?
Copy that. So I'm originally from Philadelphia, and I was living with my parents, and I moved here and went to Cecina High School. So I moved in with one of my roommates from high school, and he's a white guy, and his family's white, and I've been living with them for the past 8 years, and they've just been beyond great to me. Just took me in as one of their own, and made me see the world totally different, and not the bad side, the, I guess, racist side of all of it, which is why I just, like I said, I always felt like sheltered, because they were always so good to me.
This makes my heart really happy, because there is evil in the world and there is a lot of good and beauty in the world. And I love to hear that a black man can say there are good white people. And just like anything, like men can say there are good women. Women can say there are good men out there. I know there are. We have a lot of that in our society. And so for me, I think that's very powerful. Of all the things you said today, is just to say, like, there are good people out there.
Oh, absolutely.
We don't have to put a color or a sex on them. There are so many good people out there. So for every bad one, please understand and just try to turn your brain just a little bit and be like, actually, if there is a bad one, there's a good one too. And I think that that's a really important piece.
And that's also one of the things I try to do best, is just see the best in people, no matter what they are. And
I feel like that's what you see anyway, is people. Like, personally, for me, not to interrupt your spotlight right here, but for me personally, I just see humans, and I honestly feel human, opposed to male or female or anything like that.
One of the things that I love so much about Sydney, and for all of you guys listening or watching, Sydney couldn't be with us today, so we're going to get his perspective later on, and you're actually going to see and hear that at the end of our conversation with Abel and Brand today. So stay tuned and pay attention for that. But one of the things that he said to me when talking about his experience as a transgender man is that and what I love so much about his attitude is like, he knows that there are people who just don't understand and don't get it. And he shows an immense amount of grace towards that. And his reaction to it is like, I'm still figuring things out, so I can't expect you to figure everything out too. So my question for both of you is, if you're around people who don't quite understand or are still trying to learn or figure things out and they have questions, or maybe they say something and they don't realize what they said is different or wrong, what's your reaction to that? How do you interact with people in those situations?
My initial response to things like that is just to educate them. I came from a one-stoplight town. I went to kindergarten through high school, or kindergarten through senior year, all white kids. Like, I didn't have any diversity. My first cultural or out of a one-stoplight town experience is when I went to college and played basketball, and I had 2 black girls on my team, and they educated me very much so. And that was a big culture shock for me. So they took the time and effort and patience to educate me. So when I come into contact with people who are not cultured, I'm from Indiana. How cultured am I? I try to go places to ensure that I am cultured and educated. But when I come into contact with people like that, my initial instinct is to educate them for future reference. And so just so they, nowadays is like they say, you can't say anything wrong. People will correct you, but their automatic go-to is anger when you say something wrong. And I really try to give empathy and sympathy to people. I try not to come off as a hothead or, anger towards something that you have no idea or you've never experienced in your life. So yeah, my initial response is just to educate them, say, hey, this is my experience. This is what I've learned, and I want to pass it to you. So.
Just like Brand said, my initial reaction is to hopefully educate someone, because at all costs, I always try to avoid any kind of confrontation, any kind of friction. It's just not my forte. It never has been. But my initial reaction is to always try to educate someone on it. But like, I've been on both ends of the spectrum. From 1st to 8th grade, I've been at predominantly black schools. And then in high school, boom, it was predominantly white. So it was like a huge culture shift for me in both of them. But I've never felt unwanted in anywhere I was at, no matter who I was with. So
what Abel's trying to say is that he grows big muscles, so no one wants to have confrontation with him. That's what he's trying to say. I have a question I just kind of thought of for both of you. What is something that you feel like you're educating yourselves on being in a minority? Is there anything that you still feel like you both have something to educate further on at all?
For me, absolutely. It's honestly the history of the treatment of African Americans in the United States. And I kind of feel bad because I'm black and I feel like I should already know these things, but I mean, they're not like taught to us or anything, or well, maybe like a little bit in February, but that's definitely something I've been trying to educate myself on, is the history of being black in America and black America.
I relate to that because a lot of things that I continue to fight for the LGBTQ plus community are the rights just to be here, just to be human, and educating myself along with those things and ensuring I educate myself enough to not come across ignorant or sound offensive or anything like that to people of other cultures, ethnicities, regions, countries, whatnot. I don't want to come across as someone, because I am a member of the LGBTQ community, I don't want to think that my community is the only thing that I care about. I want to be well-versed, well-diverse, and it's mainly the biggest reason why I left my one little stoplight town, is because I don't want to live in a bubble where I'm perceived as, that whatever people perceive in that town. Because I have a great perception of that town. There are great people who live there, like my mom and my grandma, who raised me to be who I am, accepted me when I came out, still accept me today regardless of what I do. They still threaten to beat me, Mom. So I want to ensure that I am as welcoming and warm towards anyone as I can be. And I feel like education is the greatest path.
I just read something today on Instagram. I can't remember who posted it, but I think it was Whiteboard Daily. So he drew a picture of a face, and he said that, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them proportionally. Mm-hmm. So for those of you who might not have got that illusion, it's using your listening tools more than your speaking tools. Mm-hmm. Take the time to make sure that you're listening more than you're talking, because oftentimes if your mouth is moving faster than your ears are, things come out either the wrong way or they can be hurtful and not said in love. So for anyone listening to that, just be a little bit more attentive, listen to what people have to say, but listen actively. And I think it was Ben Bergeron might have talked about this in one of the podcasts. I'm looking at Tristan because he and I listen to that podcast religiously. But active listening is really listening to what someone has to say, not planning what your response is going to be next. So as a tip to those of you out there, when you're listening to someone explain their experience or they're trying to give you tips or advice, really listen, digest what they have to say, then form a response based off of that. Don't be so quick to talk or try to talk back or stuff like that.
And just like Caden said, it's don't be so quick to react. People are going to make mistakes. You have to give them room to make their mistake, and forgiveness. You just can't react and cancel them and just get so angry so quickly. You just have to give it some time.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable thing, but I mean, in order to make a change, we have to get everything out on the table first. Mm-hmm. What are your true feelings? Like I've already talked about it in a podcast, but my dad had a problem with alcohol. Do you think that we would have believed that he was just over it if he told us he was over it? I mean, we had to go through a huge change as a family, had to completely change our dynamic as a family. There was forgiveness, there was pain. Like that's anything. And I mean, if anything, that's the optimistic view of what's going on in our society. It's not very comfortable right now. There's a lot of pain, and I'm sure it's going to keep going for a little while, but at least we know it's begun, it started. So there will hit a point where it's going to start going up, hopefully. Do you guys feel like you have anything else to add that we just haven't? If you do, let's just, go for it.
What you just mentioned, the uncomfortableness, being in the military, you're definitely as a female minority and as a gay female, like super minority, like we all know each other. So so the other day, one of the guys I work with, on the last year and a half, I've been in a new unit, and my whole goal is to not take, for lack of better words, any more shit from males in the Army, and to prove, I think I've been in the military for 17 years, so I think my reputation in the Indiana Army National Guard is relatively great because of my work ethic, my knowledge base, and everything like that. But one of them was saying something about the whole COVID thing, and then they said all this Black Lives Matter stuff, and I was like, whoa, you need to. I literally piped up. I said, I'm not gonna sit here and listen to you talk like this. I refuse to, and you probably should educate yourself prior to saying anything like that in front of me ever again. And they were just like, wow. And I try to give them female perspective all the time, and sometimes they laugh it off, and sometimes I get real hype about it because it's something that's like serious and very near and dear to my heart, obviously. So I just try to be the advocate for people who aren't me.
I was fortunate. I was in the military for 6 years in the Air Force, and I had a sister flight. So we did everything with our sister flight. And again, I was very fortunate to grow up in areas where I had Black people in my life. And so again, my closest people in my life in general are my wife, my mother, and my sister. And so for me, I try to say, like, the community that I've been around, we don't treat women like that. I've never really seen that, to be quite honest with you. But it doesn't. And so again, it's hard because now I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like I've been doing something good all my life. But now, and I have, but now what I need to do, it's not done there. Like, I have to go and understand how Brand feels. I was not fortunate enough to, well, actually my first 3 years, I was still in a unit that was 32 people. I do believe we had 12 females. So again, that's a pretty good ratio, actually, if really Brand can say that. Yeah. However, then I moved to Indiana and I had 2 females in my 70 32-person unit. And we had one gay male. And that was the most uncomfortable thing I've ever been a part of for 6 months. But fortunately, we had literally a change of leadership, and he was the best man for the job. And he completely changed at least our 72 airman culture in that unit. And yeah, I think for me, that was actually one of the first times I really was like, oh, this is a thing. Just because I haven't done it, I'm now seeing it. I'm understanding the sexual innuendos, putting women down, harassment, all kinds of things. And so that's something that, again, I have to say it, when you feel that uncomfortable, don't run from it. Like, that is your opportunity to start educating yourself. You're free to have your emotions. That's why we have so many of them. Take your time, but then you need to get to work. And I think that was my first thing. Caden and I, we spoke that first week when things really, cause it was so hard. As a business owner, I just opened my business. I was just trying to get back with my people, and all the stuff was going around me. And it's just hard to be aware of that while also trying to run a business after being shut down for 3 months. And I almost felt bitter because I was like, man, I just feel like I'm trying to do something right here. And I just felt like no matter what I did, something was wrong, or I wasn't educating myself enough, or I wasn't reading this. But guess what? It's okay. Time has gone, and now I'm starting that process, and it is different for every person.
Yeah. And I think one last thing that I can think of is, I think it's one of the narratives that's been floating around with CrossFit is how do we increase diversity in CrossFit gyms? And for us, one of the things that we've talked about as a business is, and we mentioned it yesterday with programming, or the other week with programming, it's your location. Where are you located? And for us, our gym is specifically located in an area that, for one, is harder for a lot of people, as far as income is concerned. But how do you ensure that you increase the diversity or maintain diversity in your gym? That's kind of a hard thing to really go about. So I'm interested what you guys have as far as a perspective on how you think gyms, not just us, but maybe just gyms as a whole, what can they do? What are some action steps to ensure that we're making sure that as many people as possible are able to get into the gym?
Coming from a recruiting background in the National Guard, marketing is a huge thing. Just from my experience there, obviously, we would have photo shoots out at Muscatatuck all the time, and they would specifically pick people for marketing purposes, different cultural backgrounds, different ethnicities and whatnot. And I think that is one of your biggest targets. I think that along with the marketing, my biggest belief in life is to be proactive instead of reactive. So saying, hey, CrossFit, one of Greg Glassman's biggest things was we cure type 2 diabetes and stuff like that. So I think that just marketing to all people, ensuring that they understand, these are the people that come to our gym. These are actual gym members that we market, and you guys do a really great job of ensuring that we do that.
Good job, Becky.
Yeah, nice job, Becky. But yeah, people need to understand that it's very real content and it's not set up. We're not going through a marketing company. It's very authentic.
Brandon, would you say, so based on what you're saying, for M4G, let's just talk about our gym. Is the next piece that we need to do, and COVID is definitely a huge part of this right now, but is the next piece actually getting out there physically and really doing things like a job fair that the National Guard is a part
absolutely.
of, something like that?
I love job fairs, just to market it and network with people. And, I even on my signature block in my military email, it says CrossFit Level 2 certified coach. And then I get a lot of emails back that says, oh, you're a CrossFit coach? How's that? What's CrossFit about? Blah, blah, blah. And or they call me because my phone number is also on my signature block. And it's just getting the word out there. Oh, I heard CrossFit's dangerous. It's not as dangerous as you think or as you make it out to be. And then I give them the whole story about how new people come in and they want to do what the members have been there forever are doing, and it just takes time. It's like a fine wine. We have to tune it in, and stuff.
Yeah. So Abel, we actually talked about this last week, And you came up to me. I didn't say anything. You go, Tristan, I don't know what else you need to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm going to quote you. I don't know why more black people don't come here. I don't know why. I don't feel like you guys are doing anything wrong. So with what Brand just said, and I know this is putting you on the spot, but have you thought of anything like, I understand this because this is how a black person would view this, even though you didn't. This is how a black person might view this. Is there anything that's come to your mind?
Not recently, not really, but because I think we do such a great job from the rip. But like you said, we can get out there if we have to, but at the end of the day, people are going to do what they want to do. Like we were talking, like people are going to do what they want to do. Like a lot of people, especially like younger people, they're like, I want to play basketball. I want to play football. I want to do something else. Like, I still feel like, even though it's like expanded a lot more, but I still feel like CrossFit is so new and like still so fresh but yeah.
I feel like the one thing Abel can do is just start wearing more crop tops everywhere he goes. That way people be like, dang, you look good. It's like CrossFit, man.
And every time someone asks me, like, I always say M for G, M for G, M for G. Like, how'd you get like that? Like, why are you so good? Blah, blah. I would always go straight back to the gym every single time.
I love that. I think that's where we're going to kind of stop. But for fun, we are going to do a quick lightning round question. Whatever comes to my head. We'll just go one at a time. So, Bran, go ahead and step up there.
Okay.
Caden, I'll give you some time to think of questions for Abel.
I'm so scared.
All right. Water, plain or with ice?
With ice.
Plain water with ice or flavored?
Flavored.
Snatch or clean?
Snatch.
Pulls or presses?
Neither. Just kidding. Pulls.
Row or run?
Row.
Yeah. What is your go-to CrossFit shoe?
Metcon.
Metcon. So that's Nike, everybody,
Yeah.
just so you know. What's your go-to clothing apparel that's CrossFit?
Ooh, I wear a lot of Nike.
Okay. A lot of Nike. Breakfast or dinner?
Dinner. I intermittent fast every day.
Okay. Dinner or lunch?
Ooh, lunch.
Favorite place down in Broad Ripple?
Basbo's.
Is that pizza?
Yes.
Actually, we need to go, right? You invited
Yes.
Becky and I.
Yeah.
We will do that still. I need to go check out Basbo's. Okay, last one. Would you rather go to the CrossFit Games as a spectator or the Olympics as a spectator?
The Olympics.
Okay.
All right, everybody. I'm terrible at coming up with questions super fast, so I can only come up with one, and I think I'm going to have Tristan do the rest of it for Abel. So the only one I could think of with Abel was calf raises or bicep curls.
Curls.
Crop tops or t-shirts.
That is literally cheating. That is literally cheating. Okay. All right, Abel, here we go. Okay. Visor or headband?
Headband.
Sunglasses or jewelry?
Jewelry.
Would you rather your shorts be shorter or your shirt be shorter?
Shorts. Quads are popping.
Quads are popping. Quads are popping. Ice cream or any other kind of dessert?
Ice cream.
Favorite ice cream place?
Wiley-Palooza.
Wadapalooza.
Wiley-Palooza.
Okay. Wow.
Wiley-Palooza in Irvington.
I was like, did you go to Wadapalooza in Miami? I
No,
didn't know about that.
Wiley-Palooza in
Okay,
Irvington.
okay.
It's undefeated.
Favorite beverage out of anything?
Ginger ale.
Ginger ale. Last one. Ooh, let's do a movie question. Favorite sports movie?
Miracle on Ice.
Ooh, good
Oh,
one.
wow. All right, Brand, how about you answer that one?
Miracle
What's
on
your
Ice.
favorite sport movie? And this will be the end of our show.
Hoosiers. Duh.
What's yours?
Miracle. Yep.
Yeah.
Mine is Remember the Titans. They will always be. Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you guys so much for stopping in to talk to us. I thought that was a really good conversation. Guys, we're going to actually skip ahead to Sydney's talk with us that we're going to have here soon. So we will just jump right on over to his talk. And again, thank you guys so much. And if you guys want to get in touch with either of these two, we're going to be leaving their social media stuff in the show notes. So make sure you go give them a follow, hit them up with any questions that you may have that you didn't feel like you got answered in the podcast. And then we'll just follow up from there. So we'll see you guys in a few seconds.